If you are thinking of flagging this video, don't.
I came across this video about getting Pornhub shut down. The thing that stood out to me the most was one of the Pornhub victims they were using to show how bad Pornhub really is.
Pornhub is the largest and most popular porn site in the world. Owned by the megaporn parent company MindGeek, Pornhub has become the global epicenter of internet pornography. The company makes hundreds of millions of dollars through ad revenue, data collection, and premium subscriptions. And it's blatantly enabling and profiting from rape, sexual abuse, and child sex trafficking. Or Rose Kalemba, the 14-year-old, who the BBC reported was kidnapped at knife point, raped and assaulted on camera for 12 hours, and had to beg Pornhub for months and threaten legal action to remove the videos of her rape and torture. It's time to shut down Pornhub and hold them accountable for the rape, trafficking, and sexual abuse that they enable and profit from. Share this video and sign a petition at traffickinghub.com.
Here's that petition they mentioned, with 2 million signatures. That's very impressive. I can see how Rose Kalemba's story has affected a lot of people, helped them decide that they agree with the Trafficking Hub campaign. Here's her BBC article, written by Megha Mohan, a gender and identity reporter. Unfortunately, this article's left us with a watered-down, heavily edited version of her story. It's hard to get a full view of Rose's story. It's always compartmentalized, told in little bites between her various social media, blog posts, and articles. I think it's important for people to get a full understanding of Rose's story so that they can decide for themselves, once and for all, who is the victim supreme. Rose Kalemba was born somewhere in Ohio in 1994. She grew up in a low-income household. Despite their struggles, her parents were doing the best they could. Maybe not, because right off the bat she was raped before she knew what that meant. By 8 years old, Rose was already determined to not be your average victim. She knew a mere eating disorder wouldn't cut it. She managed to achieve a forced eating disorder, however that works. Not content with your run-of-the-mill bullying, at age 9 she became the victim of racism by receiving white racial slurs directed at her, written on the bathroom wall. It was particularly tragic years later when the racist effect was compounded because she also became a victim for being Native American, creating the phenomenon known as super double racism. Around this age, she also started duct taping her breasts flat to her chest so pedophiles wouldn't oogle her. Unfortunately, she also gave herself a permanent neck and shoulder injury from this routine. In 2019, Rose was hired to write a freelance article about a friend who was sexually trafficked when she was 11 years old. Did I say friend? I meant the article was actually about herself. She lied about it with the permission of the editor, so it's okay. She did it to protect younger family members who I guess don't need that protection a year later.
When I was 11 years old, a female family member from my extended family trafficked another younger family member and I, who was even younger than I, and let her friends molest and sexually abuse us for usually about $20 each time. So eventually cigarette money for her was worth stealing her innocence away. And that situation went on for about 2 years. I had just very narrowly gotten away from it because my other family member who was being hurt finally spoke up.
During the 2-year period of sexual abuse, Rose was forced to become addicted to drugs and alcohol. As the cherry on the top of a sex trafficking cake, Rose became pregnant by an unknown pedo rapist. It's super weird, I mean traumatic, that no one in her life, not her parents, siblings, teachers, or friends, thought a drunk, strung out, chronically fatigued, pregnant child needed some help. I guess maybe it's because the people she grew up around are the worst people ever? Jesus, I hope they never find this tweet. In April 2019, Rose first told the story of a minor she knows being the victim of a horrible rape that later had video recordings of it uploaded to Pornhub. Did I say a minor she knows? I meant the story was about herself, and she lied about it. For reasons. Yeah. She won't be silenced anymore. That works. She has her family standing by her. Wait, the racist, sexist family? What? No, moving on. A few weeks after changing the first version of the tale in her tweets, the BBC already did an entire televised story on her? Jesus, that didn't take long. I'm sure they looked into it, right? I mean, it's the BBC, come on.
You know what I'm talking about? Juicy Smouillet. He's a very famous French actor. Y'all never heard of Juicy Smouillet? One night, he was in Chicago late at night and was the victim He was the victim of a racist and homophobic attack. You see, Juicy Smouillet is gay and he is black, not just French. Oh, it was a crazy story. Apparently, when he was walking down the street late at night, two white men came out of the shadows with MAGA hats on and beat him up. Tied a rope around his neck, called him all kinds of niggas, and put some bleach on him and ran off into the night. This shit was like international news. And everybody was furious, especially in Hollywood. It's all over everybody's Twitter feed and Instagram page. Justice for Juicy and all this shit. The whole country was up in arms. It was talking about it all the time on the news. And for some reason, African Americans, we were like oddly quiet. We were so quiet about this shit that the gay community started accusing African American community of being homophobic for not supporting him. What they didn't understand is that we were supporting him with our silence. Because we understood that this nigga was clearly lying. None of these details added up at all.
In the summer of 2009, 14-year-old Rose Kalemba decided to go for a walk in the middle of the night, all alone. Her father told her he had a bad feeling about it.
That was my nightly routine, but I remember clearly, and we were just talking about it recently, my father, that specific night, he said, please just stay home, please don't go. Like, I just have a weird feeling, and it gives me chills now to think about it, that he had never said that before, and because that was just my routine, and he said, please just stay home, and I'm like, oh, it's fine, and kind of blew it off.
Ignoring her father's clairvoyance, Rose went on her weird, brave middle-of-the-night walk. Out of the shadows, a man with a knife appeared and forced Rose into a car, where there was a second man in the passenger seat. Rose recognized him from around town. She knew him from around her neighborhood. Wait, she knew them all because it was actually her next-door neighbor and his best friends? I don't know, that sounds kind of risky to me.
One of them was my next-door neighbor, and the other was his best friend.
Okay, that's the final answer, right?
I was just walking when I ran into them. The one guy, his name was Mike, he pressed the knife into my back. And I ended up being just like, almost kind of frozen in shock, and they forced me to get into a car. As soon as I got in their vehicle, they took my phone. My family, even family members that live in other states that I didn't talk to in years, were blowing up my phone, trying to call me, saying, we're about to call the police. What are you doing? Are you staying out late? Did you sneak out? Basically, what's going on? Just answer us. And the camera guy, he was the only one who was a minor. He was 17 years old. The other ones were all adults. and they forced me to get into a car and took me to this house, which is the camera guy's house, and he was there with his mother and his sister, and they were both home when this happened, and there's nothing to stop it. And the part of that specific chapter of my story that a lot of people don't know is that a postman was supposed to be there that night, but apparently had to house sit for his brother, and so he was watching me being assaulted on webcam, but I could not see him. And so this went on for about 12 to 15 hours, and they sexually assaulted me in every way possible, and during much of the night they filmed it.
You got kidnapped by your next door neighbor, and instead of taking you to the house that's right there, they took you to another one where the mother and sister are home. And they're just fine with these unspeakably horrible acts happening to a 14-year-old girl for 13 hours? Oh, and another guy's on the webcam because he couldn't make it to the half-day-long child rape appointment? Is that it, or is there anything else I'm missing?
A lot of people don't know this, but my best friend was there the night I was assaulted.
Oh, come on!
She did not get sexually assaulted. She just was apparently downstairs watching TV the entire time, and I know she had heard me screaming, and I know she saw what I looked like.
That's it. No one else, please. We've reached capacity. Go find your own 14-year-old.
Apparently there were multiple times she was in the room, and I don't remember. It must have been times I was unconscious, from the beatings, but...
This was your best friend? Why would she hate your guts like that?
Ironically, I was not allowed to be her friend anymore because her stepdad said next she's going to be accusing your cousins of rape. And it just was so mind-blowingly crazy because I had been assaulted before. And I told her about what my family member did to me. But I said that I made up some fake name of somebody I didn't know. I said, it was a boyfriend named Kyle because I was too ashamed to say my own female family member did that to me. But everything else was true.
Everything else was true? Wait, you made up a boyfriend for when you were 11? How did you have a boyfriend when you were 11 who sexually trafficked you? That was the white lie you told? That changes the story completely. So you lied about rape, and now your family doesn't trust you. So as the horrible night goes on, it becomes apparent that this is no ordinary rape. Rose has become the victim of a super rape. During the 13 hours, the exact timeline of events becomes muddy, but one thing was crystal clear. During the whole attack, Rose was a fighter.
I want them to see that I fought back. And I want a little gay boy who might watch this to see that I fought back. And it does not take anything away from people that are not able to do that. But I fought back. They ran off. I didn't.
What do you say to a young gay man, a young gay person?
To learn to fight. And I don't just mean learn to fight. I mean, learn to fight. Learn to be a fighter. I am not advocating violence at all. So let's be clear about that. If you're gonna die, fight until you do. Because if you don't fight, you have no chance. I have fought for love. I'm an advocate. I respect too much the people who I am now one of those people who have been attacked in any way. You do such a disservice when you lie about things like this.
She was such a badass fighter. She smashed the bottle and chased her attackers around the room with it. Holy shit, it's a girl from Kick-Ass.
Okay, you cunts. Let's see what you can do now. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Then they used her hair as a broom and a blood mop? Well, at least you have a bunch of DNA evidence now. I'm sure we'll hear about that later, right? At one point, the men showed incriminating evidence to Rose, a woman they later released. They showed her videos of similar rapes done to other women. And Rose took particular interest in their races because of the power structure. Strange thing to notice at a time like this. Wait, they showed her dozens? You know that's at a minimum 24 girls, right? Did you spend all night watching videos? Then Rose got stabbed in the leg while she was hanging out the window. How did your neighbors not see this or hear anything and call the cops? Oh, I guess they did see it, but they decided not to bother with it? That seems reasonable. And at one point, her attackers dropped a cinder block on her spine. They also hit you in the head with the cinder block and with a bat. Are we still talking about a 14-year-old girl? Is this a video game or a Tarantino movie? After somehow still being alive, our Spy Kid 3D went into advanced psychological warfare and convinced her attackers to just let her go. Sure, I guess that seems normal after everything else. So before letting her go, the main bad guy laughed maniacally and went on a cliché evil villain monologue. So after getting brainwashed, the bad guys dumped Rose 30 minutes away from her house, and instead of flagging down a cop or knocking on a stranger's house, she walked the whole way home. How is she even able to walk after that? She gets home, and everyone is just getting ready to eat lunch, like any other day. Okay, and now they call the cops? And everyone besides her father says she was asking for it. That's borderline insensitive.
My family kind of has a mistrust of the police because of other bad experiences we had, so I don't think it really even occurred to my family to call the police unless that was an absolute last resort.
So your child goes missing the night you had a bad feeling about her walk, by herself, in the middle of the night, and you never call the cops, even after 14 hours? But for some reason, you've let your out-of-state family members know. Maybe she walked to the airport, went to visit her aunt in Florida.
None of these details added up at all.
So they get Rose to the hospital, and all the male cops and doctors seem to automatically assume Rose was a lying slut who got what she deserved.
He said he believed I had consensual sex, but it was too rough for my liking. The doctor said this to me and just victim blamed me and didn't even do a rape, which really hurt my court case.
They didn't do a rape kit on it?
No, he did not. And I told him that I was raped.
I just want to make it clear that only the men were the assholes. Only the men. The women all believe every single word she says. Because vagina. Unfortunately, because of the police's misogyny against women, they refuse to search the crime scene or gather any evidence at all. That might also have to do with her having never told the cops at all who the rapists were or where the crime scene even was. But let's not nitpick.
You see how clever this part is? How it doesn't require a shred of proof? I mean, most paranoid delusions are intricate, but this is brilliant.
So this wraps up the first installment of this story. Next time we'll be going into the aftermath of this horrible event, the toll it took on poor Rose, what happened to her attackers when they faced our mighty justice system. A lot of time and effort went into the research of this video, and I couldn't have done it without my team. I'd like to give a special shout out to the Twitter user, The Young Feminist Collective. You were an amazing help, and I couldn't have completed this video without you. Thanks for watching.